I've been cheating on my wife for years, and now I don't know how to stop. I need to get this off my chest because it's been eating away at me for years. This is a confession that could ruin my life, but I'm at the point where I don't even care about keeping it hidden anymore. My conscience is screaming at me, and yet, I can't seem to stop. Maybe putting it all out there will help me find a way to finally break free from this mess I've created. I've been cheating on my wife, my girlfriend before she became my wife, for years, and the worst part is, I'm not sure how to stop. It all started nearly a decade ago, when I was in my early 20s. At the time, I had just started dating Emma, the woman who would eventually become my wife. We met through mutual friends, and I was immediately drawn to her. She had this warmth and kindness about her that made her seem like the type of person who could bring light into even the darkest room. She was intelligent, funny, and supportive, basically everything you could ever want in a partner. And I was head over heels in love with her. At least, I thought I was. Things were perfect at first. We spent every moment together, and it wasn't long before we became inseparable. We talked about everything, our dreams, our future, and even marriage. It was the kind of relationship you see in movies, the kind that people envy. But somewhere along the way, I made a mistake that would change everything. It happened during a work trip, a few years into my relationship with Emma. I had been sent to Montreal for a week-long conference, and I ended up meeting a woman there. Let's call her Lily. She was part of the conference, too, young, ambitious, and full of energy. At first, it was just harmless flirting. You know how it goes, compliments, playful teasing, a few drinks at the hotel bar. But things quickly escalated, and before I knew it, we were in my hotel room. It was my first time cheating on Emma, and the guilt hit me hard the next morning. I remember staring at myself in the mirror, wondering what the hell I had just done. Emma and I were happy. She trusted me. How could I have done something so stupid? I told myself it was a one-time thing, that I'd never do it again. And for a while, I didn't. When I got back home, I made sure to go above and beyond for Emma to cover my tracks. I bought her flowers, took her out for fancy dinners, and even surprised her with a weekend getaway to make up for the time I had been away. I convinced myself that if I showed her how much I cared, she would never suspect anything. I figured as long as I treated her well and acted like the perfect boyfriend, I could bury my guilt and move on. And it worked. Emma had no idea. She was happy, and we were back to being that perfect couple. But as time went on, the temptation returned. It didn't take long before I started craving that thrill again, that excitement of doing something I wasn't supposed to do. I knew it was wrong, but the rush was intoxicating. So, when another opportunity presented itself a few months later, I took it. This time, it was with a woman named Sarah, a bartender at one of the places my buddies and I frequented on the weekends. Sarah was fun, carefree, and didn't seem to care about anything serious. It was the perfect setup. We hooked up a few times, and just like with Lily, I felt that familiar pang of guilt afterward. But instead of confronting it, I did what I had done before, I buried it. I treated Emma like a queen. I brought her more gifts, more surprises, more elaborate gestures of love. Every time I cheated, I made sure to compensate by being extra attentive at home. It was like a twisted game of give and take, except Emma had no idea she was playing. For a long time, this became my pattern. I would cheat, feel guilty, and then shower Emma with affection and gifts to cover it up. I became really good at it. I knew exactly what to do to make her feel loved and appreciated so that she wouldn't suspect a thing. If I had been distant or away for too long, I'd come home with a new piece of jewelry or plan a surprise date night. If I felt like I had crossed a line, I'd splurge on something extravagant, designer bags, luxury shoes, a spa weekend. The more I cheated, the more gifts I brought home. Emma always lit up when I did these things for her, and every time she smiled, it made the guilt easier to push down. But even with all the gifts, all the attention I showered her with, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was living a lie. The cheating wasn't just about the women anymore, it was about the thrill of getting away with it. I became addicted to the secrecy, to the feeling of having this whole other life that Emma knew nothing about. It wasn't even about the sex anymore. It was about the power I felt knowing that I could cheat and still maintain the image of the perfect boyfriend, and later, the perfect husband. When Emma and I got engaged, I swore to myself that I would stop. I told myself that once we were married, I would leave all the cheating behind. I loved her, after all. I didn't want to hurt her. I figured that making such a serious commitment would force me to grow up and change. And for a while, it worked. The first year of our marriage was great. I stayed faithful, or at least, I tried to. We were happy, and I convinced myself that the days of cheating were behind me. But then came the work trips. Shortly after we got married, I got a promotion at work that required me to travel more frequently. I was often gone for days or even weeks at a time, and that's when the old habits started to creep back in. Being away from Emma, being in new cities surrounded by new people, it felt like the perfect opportunity to slip back into my old ways. And that's exactly what happened. It started with a co-worker named Megan. We were on a business trip together, and after a long day of meetings, we went out for drinks with a few other colleagues. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were back in my hotel room. The guilt hit me hard the next morning, but I pushed it away like I always did. I figured as long as I kept treating Emma well and bringing her gifts, she'd never find out. And she didn't. After Megan, there were more women I met on work trips, women I picked up at bars, women I met online. Each time, I promised myself it would be the last time, but it never was. The more I got away with it, the more I felt invincible. I thought I had mastered the art of living a double life. As long as I kept Emma happy, I could continue cheating without ever getting caught. I became an expert at manipulation. I knew exactly how to keep Emma from suspecting anything. If I had been gone for too long or if I had been distant, I'd come home with a gift in hand. It was like clockwork: cheat, feel guilty, buy her something expensive. It became a cycle that I couldn't break. Every time I cheated, I'd tell myself I had to make up for it by spoiling her even more. One time, after a particularly wild night with a woman I met at a conference, I came home and bought Emma a brand new car. She had been talking about wanting a new one for months, and I figured it was the perfect distraction. When I handed her the keys, she burst into tears of joy, completely unaware that the car was just my way of covering up the guilt. She had no idea that I had spent the night with another woman just days before. But the more I manipulated Emma, the more I started to feel like I was losing control. I had built this entire life based on lies and deceit, and I was terrified of what would happen if it all came crashing down. I loved Emma, but I had dug myself so deep into this mess that I didn't know how to get out. I had become addicted to the thrill of cheating, to the rush of getting away with it, and no matter how much I tried to stop, I kept going back for more. There was one woman, let's call her Rachel, who nearly ended everything. I met her at a bar during one of my work trips to New York. She was different from the other women I had been with. She wasn't just looking for a quick fling, she wanted something more. We started seeing each other regularly whenever I was in town, and before long, she started asking questions about my life back home. She wanted to know more about me, about my single life. I had never felt the need to lie so extensively to anyone before, but with Rachel, I found myself creating an entirely new persona. I told her I wasn't married, that I was just a single guy living the bachelor life. For months, I lived this double life, one where I was the perfect husband to Emma and another where I was this carefree single guy with Rachel. It was exhausting, but I couldn't stop. Rachel became more demanding, wanting more of my time, more of my attention. She even started talking about moving to Toronto to be closer to me. That's when I realized things were getting out of hand. I tried to end things with Rachel, but she didn't take it well. She threatened to contact Emma and tell her everything if I didn't keep seeing her. I was terrified. For the first time, I realized that my entire world could come crashing down, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I was trapped in my own lies, and the walls were closing in. I spent weeks trying to keep Rachel at bay, all while pretending everything was fine at home with Emma. I bought Emma more gifts than ever, trying to keep her happy, trying to make sure she didn't suspect anything. I even planned a surprise vacation for the two of us to Europe, hoping that by focusing on our marriage, I could keep Rachel from blowing everything up. But the stress was eating away at me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the moment when Emma would find out. I knew it was only a matter of time before Rachel followed through on her threats. And then, one day, it happened. I was sitting in my office when I got a text from Rachel. It was a screenshot of an email she had drafted, addressed to Emma. The subject line read, "The truth about your husband." My heart stopped. She was really going to do it. She was really going to blow up my entire life. I begged her not to send it. I told her I would do anything if she just kept quiet. She agreed, but only if I kept seeing her. I was trapped. I couldn't break things off with Rachel without risking everything, but I also couldn't keep living this lie. That's when I realized I had hit rock bottom. My entire life had become a web of lies, deceit, and manipulation, and I had no idea how to get out. I loved Emma, but I had destroyed any chance of having a real, honest relationship with her. I had cheated on her for years, manipulated her with gifts and grand gestures to keep her from finding out, and now I was stuck in a situation I couldn't control. I don't know what to do anymore. I know I'm a horrible person. I know I've betrayed the woman I love in the worst possible way. But I don't know how to stop. I've been living this double life for so long that I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm terrified of what's going to happen when Emma finally finds out the truth, but I'm also terrified of losing her. Reddit, I know I'm an asshole. I know I deserve whatever comes my way. But how do I stop? How do I break this cycle before it's too late?